The events surrounding the Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, during 1966 to 1967, remain a perplexing enigma. While the winged creature itself continues to fascinate and terrify, a more insidious presence emerged from the shadows: Indrid Cold, the enigmatic figure known for his disturbing grin. The first documented encounter with Indrid Cold occurred in late 1966. Woodrow Derenberger, a local journalist investigating the Mothman sightings, stumbled upon a figure standing amidst the skeletal remains of the abandoned TNT area. This being, described as tall and gaunt with eyes that glowed an unnatural green, wore a long, tattered coat that seemed to shimmer in the moonlight. However, it was the creature's face that truly unnerved Derenberger. A grotesque, inhuman smile stretched across its features, a disturbing rictus that seemed to mock the very essence of humanity. It was a smile that promised unimaginable horrors, a smile that seemed to devour the soul with a single glance. The creature spoke, its voice a low, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate deep within Derenberger's very being. Indrid Cold, it rasped, the voice an eerie echo in the desolate landscape. "I have been watching you, Woodrow." Fear, raw and primal, gripped Derenberger. He tried to flee, to escape the presence that seemed to emanate from the creature, but his legs felt like lead. He was frozen, transfixed by the gaze of the creature, by the smile that seemed to foretell an ominous fate. Indrid Cold, as the creature identified itself, spoke further, its voice a whisper on the wind. "You seek answers, Woodrow. You seek to understand the darkness that has fallen upon this town. But the truth, you see, is far more terrifying than you can possibly imagine." Derenberger, his voice trembling, stammered, What are you?" Indrid Cold chuckled, a hollow sound that sent shivers down Derenberger's spine. "I am, what you dread most," it rasped, his voice an echo in the desolate landscape. "I am the harbinger of change, the bringer of shadows." With that pronouncement, Indrid Cold vanished, leaving Derenberger alone in the silence of the night, his mind reeling from the encounter. He stumbled back to town, his heart pounding in his chest, his mind racing with thoughts. Who was Indrid Cold? What did he want? And what ominous fate awaited the town of Point Pleasant? The following days were a blur of paranoia. The town was gripped by fear, the presence of Indrid Cold hanging heavy in the air. Whispers of doom and impending disaster spread through the community like wildfire, fueling the panic that had gripped the town. Derenberger, haunted by the encounter, struggled to make sense of what he had witnessed. He pored over books on mythology, folklore, and the paranormal, searching for any clue, any hint that might explain the existence of Indrid Cold. He discovered tales of ancient beings, of entities that existed beyond the realm of human comprehension. He learned of prophecies. The more he learned, the more grave the situation became. One evening, while researching at the local library, Derenberger stumbled upon an old, leather-bound book, its pages brittle and yellowed with age. The book contained accounts of strange occurrences, of sightings of otherworldly beings. As he delved deeper into the text, a realization dawned upon him. The events unfolding in Point Pleasant, the presence of Indrid Cold, it all seemed to fit a pattern. The implications of his discovery sent a wave of dread through him. He realized that the fate of Point Pleasant might be sealed, that the presence of Indrid Cold might be an inescapable harbinger of doom. Derenberger knew he had to warn the town, to prepare them for the fate that awaited them. But how? How could he convince them? How could he make them believe in the existence of Indrid Cold? As the realization settled over him, Derenberger knew he had to act, and act quickly. The fate of Point Pleasant hung in the balance, the only one who could try to save them. But as he prepared to face the truth, a question lingered in his mind. Was he truly prepared to face the consequences of his discovery? Derenberger's frantic attempts to alert the town to the looming menace fell on deaf ears. The townspeople, already on edge from the Mothman sightings, dismissed his warnings as the ravings of a man driven mad by anxiety. This rejection, however, only fueled Derenberger's resolve. He felt a profound obligation, a weighty burden to protect the community, even if they refused to believe him. His research intensified, becoming a desperate quest for understanding. He spent countless hours in the library, poring over arcane texts, dusty tomes filled with forgotten lore. He sought any mention, any whisper of beings like Indrid Cold. He unearthed accounts of ancient entities, creatures that existed on the periphery of reality, feeding on fear and sowing discord. These entities, described in cryptic language, were said to appear during times of great upheaval, harbingers of destruction and despair. One particularly disturbing passage described a being known as a shadow walker, a creature that could manipulate perceptions and sow seeds of paranoia. The description eerily matched Derenberger's encounter with Indrid Cold: the disturbing grin, the voice, the feeling of being watched, of being known. The text spoke of the shadow walker's ability to predict future events, not through true foresight, but by influencing them, by subtly nudging events towards a predetermined, disastrous outcome. This revelation struck Derenberger with the force of a physical blow. He began to see a pattern in the events unfolding in Point Pleasant. The Mothman sightings, the strange lights in the sky, the growing sense of dread that permeated the town, it all seemed orchestrated, as if some unseen hand was guiding events towards a catastrophic conclusion. The disturbing smile of Indrid Cold echoed in his memory, no longer a simple expression of malice. Derenberger, now convinced of a greater, more sinister design, tried a different approach. He began documenting everything, meticulously recording every strange occurrence, every whispered rumor, every frightful dream. He compiled his research into a detailed report, a testament to the reality he had uncovered. He hoped that by presenting concrete evidence, he could finally convince the authorities, or at least some open-minded individual, of the danger they faced. He attempted to contact officials outside of Point Pleasant, reaching out to state and federal agencies, hoping someone would take his concerns seriously. But his pleas were met with bureaucratic indifference, his reports filed away, dismissed as the ramblings of a disturbed local. The feeling of isolation intensified, the weight of his knowledge became almost unbearable. As the days turned into weeks, the atmosphere in Point Pleasant grew progressively more tense. The Mothman sightings continued, becoming more frequent and more graphic. People reported seeing the creature closer, describing its glowing red eyes and its immense wings with increased clarity. The feeling of being watched pervaded the town. Then, on December 15, 1967, tragedy struck. The Silver Bridge, a vital artery connecting Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, Ohio, collapsed during rush hour. Dozens of cars plunged into the icy Ohio River, resulting in numerous deaths. The catastrophe devastated the community, plunging the town into deep mourning. In the aftermath of the bridge collapse, Derenberger's warnings were finally revisited, but not in the way he had hoped. Some began to speculate that the Mothman sightings were a premonition of the disaster, a warning of the impending tragedy. Others, remembering Derenberger's accounts, wondered if Indrid Cold had played a role, if he was somehow connected to the bridge's failure. However, the official investigation attributed the collapse to structural failure, specifically the fracture of a single eye-bar in a suspension chain. The presence of Indrid Cold was dismissed as a product of overactive imaginations fueled by fear and grief. Derenberger, however, remained convinced of a more sinister explanation. He believed that the bridge collapse was not an accident, but a culmination of the events he had foreseen, a tragic consequence of the presence he had encountered. He believed that Indrid Cold, the bringer of shadows, had orchestrated the disaster, using the fear and chaos surrounding the Mothman sightings to mask his true purpose. In the years following the tragedy, Derenberger retreated from public life, haunted by his experiences. He carried the burden of his knowledge, the weight of what he had witnessed. He never fully recovered from the encounter with Indrid Cold, the disturbing smile forever etched in his memory. The case of Indrid Cold remains an open file, a perplexing enigma within the already strange story of the Mothman of Point Pleasant. While the official explanation focuses on structural failure, the accounts of Woodrow Derenberger continue to fuel speculation and debate. Was Indrid Cold a figment of a frightened man's imagination, or was he a real entity, a sinister force connected to the tragic events of 1967? The truth, like the disturbing smile of Indrid Cold, remains elusive, a haunting reminder of the darkness that may lurk just beyond the veil of our perception. Thank you for joining us today. If you made it until the end, then please like, comment and subscribe for more terrifying tales of the unknown. This has been the Phantom Files, and until next time, remember to stay curious, stay vigilant and always question what is lurking in the shadows.